Good afternoon. I would like to welcome everybody who is here with us at the Media Center, Ukraine. And right now, we will have Oleksiy Gromov. We'll give the floor to the Brigadier General, the Deputy Head of the Main Operations Directorate of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and Olexandr Khorunzhiy, the spokesperson for the State Emergency Service. Gentlemen, welcome. Mr. Gromov, please tell us what is happening right now at the front line. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I would like to congratulate all of you with the Day of Vyshyvanka. That's our traditional cloth. In regards to the situation on the front line, it is the 85th day of the full-scale armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine. The adversary continues to concentrate forces in the east of Ukraine. The declared goal of the second stage of the special operation of the Russian Federation remains unchanged. It's the occupation of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions within their administrative borders. Thus, right now, in the Donetsk line of effort, the enemy formation is trying to advance along the entire line of contact. The adversary continues to use mortars, artillery systems, and MLRS to shell the forces of Ukraine with the support of aviation in order to cause casualties to the Ukrainian armed forces, to exhaust the Ukrainian forces, and to destroy the fortifications of Ukrainian units. The current active combat is also being carried out by the enemy in Severodonetsk, Liman, Bakhmut, and Kurachovo. The main efforts are concentrated on the advances aimed at encircling the units of the joint forces near Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. Gradually, the adversary is losing the momentum of their advance. At the same time, the adversary is attempting to restore the advance attempts in Slavyansk. There's still a high chance of combat along separate lines of efforts to prevent Ukraine from moving reserve forces towards other lines of effort. In Mariupol, the intensity of hostilities has decreased. Currently, we're evacuating our heroes from Mariupol. Along the Kharkiv line of effort, starting from May 5th of this year, the Ukrainian armed forces have liberated 23 settlements. The adversary continued their active shelling, trying to limit Ukrainian advance and trying to limit the Ukrainian forces from advancing along the Ukrainian border. Moreover, the adversary continues to shell the border-adjacent regions of Chernihiv and Sumy regions in order to cause casualties, to limit the maneuverability of Ukrainian forces, and to distract them from advance. In Rivne and Zhytomyr, there are no signs of attack units formation of the Russian Federation. However, there's still a high probability of missile strikes on the infrastructure facilities of Ukraine. The adversary started to set up fortifications in Zabrovka, which can be used at the military base of Russian Federation on the territory of Belarus. In Brest and Grodno, local administrations are going through the training to establish military command bodies and territorial defense. They attempted to force the River Neman and carried out respective military exercise with the units of the 56th Motorized Brigade. Probably the Belarusians are disturbed by the attempts of the Russian 74th Brigade to force the river in Ukraine, which caused significant casualties. The situation in Transnistria is consistently difficult because many of the Russian forces are on high alert. However, there are no indications of the movement of vehicles and equipment. At the same time, the platoon units that are tasked with counter-subversion are on high alert. Until May 25th, on the territory of Transnistria, the red code of terrorist threat is enacted. In Mykolaiv, the adversary shelled our units. However, there were no active hostilities. The main effort were concentrated on reconnaissance, occupation of the taking positions, and their fortification. The ships and boats of the adversary continue to carry out their missions in the Black and Azov Sea regions to limit civilian ships and carry out reconnaissance. There is still a high chance of missile strikes from the ships and boat-based missiles. In regards of the dismount of Ukrainian military, there is still a high chance of dismount in Black Sea and Azov Sea regions. As of the morning of today, in comparison to May 10th, the armed forces of the Russian Federation have carried out 63 missile strikes. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that the main goals of these missile strikes were the infrastructure facilities in Lviv, Khmelnytsk, Chernihiv, Sumy, Odessa, and Mykolaiv regions. These are the regions where there are no active hostilities at the moment.
In temporarily occupied territories of the Republic of Crimea, there are still actions taken to replenish losses of Russian units. In some territories in Crimean Peninsula, the enemy has organized the combat coordination of 128 Coastal Guard brigades located in Privalny and 810th Marine Brigade located in Sevastopol. The enemy continues to make steps to compensate for its losses, to replenish losses. According to our information, creation of consolidated battalion tactical group of Pacific and North Fleet continue in permanent locations of 40th Marine Brigade in Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky and 200 separate infantry brigade in Pechenga. Based on a Sergeant Training Center of Southern Military District in Molkino, there has been training of personnel to bring them to units of the 49th Army. Since the beginning of full-scale Russia-Ukraine war, in Russia there has been at least 12 cases where military commissioners' offices have been set on fire. In the last week alone, there have been 5 such cases in Rostov and Ryazan oblasts, as well as in Volgograd and Domsk. To summarize, I'd like to say that the command of the armed forces of Ukraine, General Staff, clearly understand who is our enemy, what sort of enemy it is, and its plans and capabilities, and how to win over that enemy. Everything will be Ukraine. Thank you for attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Gromov. Mr. Olexandr, sir, we are aware that the State Emergency Service currently has their own front line, mainly connected with extinguishing fires as a result of shellings. What is the situation right now? Good day, everyone. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Over the course of the last 24 hours, the State Emergency Service has carried out 357 visits to different settlements to extinguish 43 fires. We have saved 1 person, and we have provided psychological assistance to 671 persons. Overall, since the beginning of the full-scale invasion of the Russian Federation, we have dealt with the aftermath. We have extinguished more than 8,500 fires, saved 1,300 people, and provided psychological assistance to more than 125,000 Ukrainian citizens. In regards to our activities in general, besides the fact that the State Emergency Service units are consistently working on extinguishing fires, they're also supporting the livelihood of different settlements, in particular by providing drinking and technical water and restoring the electrical supply of different infrastructure installations such as hospitals. We are using our own generators to provide the functioning of these installations where possible. Of course, our main efforts are focused on dealing with the aftermath of explosions. Currently, the state emergency services are working in Kharkiv, in Dergach, and in Dokuchaevsk. There are more than 35 people and 8 vehicles working on dismantling the destroyed buildings. Since the beginning of the invasion of the Russian Federation, our units has saved 1,310 individuals and have evacuated 1,065 corpses from the remains of the buildings. Another important aspect of our work is demining. Overall, across the territory of Ukraine, we have more than 600 demining experts and around 250 units of demining vehicles and equipment. In regards to the Kyiv region, Kyiv is currently being demined, cleared of the explosive ordnance by 108 state emergency service specialists. And I would like to say that we have currently demined more than 12,000 hectares in Kyiv region. And we have neutralized more than 30,000 explosives. The overall number for the entire territory of Ukraine, I'm sorry, give me a minute. The overall number since the beginning of the full-scale aggression, it's 112,000 units of explosive ordnance, including 1,066 aviation bombs that have been neutralized. And those are not all of the aviation bombs that have been dropped. Can you imagine the number of bombs that has been dropped on the territory of Ukraine? Thank you so much, dear colleagues. I welcome your questions to our speakers. Please take a mic and ask questions. The question is to General Gromov. Could you please tell us how likely is the threat of Ukrainian joint forces units being encircled in Donbas? When mentioning the main lines of effort of the enemy advance, you did not mention Belgorodka. Did the intensity of combat decrease there? And how high is this threat of the Ukrainian forces being encircled? And the second question, what is the situation in Sumy and Chernihiv after the shellings? Is there a threat of advance in these lines of efforts? Thank you. To answer the first question, last time during the last press conference, we discussed the rules of our communication. The General Staff will not make any comments on the hostilities that are happening currently. Yes, the hostilities are currently happening in the settlements that you have mentioned. However, this information is very sensitive and the adversary might use it to their advantage. If there is a possibility of regular citizens to comment these events, they're right. However, as a representative of the General Staff, I am not allowed to comment on that. That's in regards to the first question. In regards to the second question, after the shellings of Ukrainian units positions in Chernihiv and Sumy regions, we are currently forecasting that the adversary will carry out demonstrative actions, will probably concentrate additional forces to distract Ukrainian forces from the main lines of effort. Do you have any other questions? And the question to Mr. Khorunzhiy. I have a question. Do you have enough personnel to actually deal with the remnants of the exploded and destroyed buildings? Of course, we don't have enough personnel, because the destructions caused by the Russian army are extreme. There are many houses that are damaged or destroyed. That's why we're trying to engage volunteers. We're trying to engage the civil society that can actually assist us. How does that work? We have a specific tab on our website where people can register and people can add their own information. Afterwards, we provide this information to the military administration or to local authorities that can actually engage these individuals to work in certain specific areas, depending on where those volunteers are. However, it is also very important to highlight that we can engage people, both the civil administrations and the military administrations, only when the territories and the areas have been completely demined and deemed safe, only when our explosive ordnance specialists or the explosive ordnance specialists of police have cleared those areas. Yes, this is the area where volunteers can work. So, of course, considering the scale of the destruction, we definitely do not have enough personnel. However, we are trying to use different alternatives and trying to engage Ukrainians. Are there any other questions?
Mateusz Mikowski from Polish Press Agency. I have a question to Mr. General. Okay, Mateusz Mikowski from Polish Press Agency. Good morning, good afternoon. With a question to Mr. General. Today, Ukraine provided statistics and figures on the losses of the Russian army. And can you also share the figures on the losses in the Ukrainian army? This is the first question. And second is about the situation of the defenders of Azovstal. What is actually the situation of the evacuated Azovstal defenders? How many defenders of Azovstal is still waiting for evacuation? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Of course, like during any war, during any armed conflict, both parties are sustaining casualties. Currently, the Ukrainian side is also sustaining casualties. However, I would like to assure you that the casualties suffered by the enemy are much greater. As far as commenting on numbers goes, unfortunately, I'm not authorized to comment on that. This is also in regards to the second part of your question, in regards to the Ukrainian heroes that are currently defending Mariupol. This is something that the higher military political command is authorized to comment on. So only after they voice this information, I will be able to provide it. Thank you so much. Are there any more questions?
I want to ask you, Mr. Gromov, about also the defenders of Mariupol. We know from Ukrainian officials that the defenders that are evacuated are on a territory out of control of Russia. Do you believe that is a risk of their life? May Russians kill them?
Thank you so much for your question. This is also a very sensitive issue for every citizen of Ukraine. Not only the general staff, not only the Brigadier General Gromov deals with the situation or worries about the situation. Every citizen of Ukraine is worried about the defenders of Azovstal. We know that the adversary is very cowardly. However, we believe that the word they gave us, the promise they gave us, will be fulfilled. Thank you. Are there any more questions? There are no more questions? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us here. Thank you for finding the time. Thank you very much, friends. So please stay with us.